Hello CEE 4405 students, this is your TA, Lene Ludick, and today we will be going over a falling head hydraulic conductivity test. In your lab kits you should have the following materials: a bag of a coarse grain sand, a bag of a fine grain sand, and a bag of a medium grain sand. You should also have a cylinder with filter paper and wire mesh and a hose clamp around it. Make sure you check that all of the filter paper and wire mesh is sticking above the hose clamp. If it's not, that's okay, because you are provided with an extra set of filter paper and wire mesh. You should also have a solo cup, a small cup, and then for you to provide on your own, you should have a sink or a large bin of some type to collect the water, and then plenty of water for the test. Step 1 of the test will be to load your cylinder with the appropriate sand. The first test we'll run will be with the coarse grain sand. So you have your bag of coarse grain sand and your cylinder. On your cylinder you see 3 lines labeled. The goal is that we want our sand to be at the top of the, or in line with the bottom line. However, we want it to be densely packed. So what we'll do is we'll pour the sand in, until it is about halfway to that first line. We then are going to densify our sand by tamping it. You can also do it along the side of a surface too. This rearranges the particles and essentially causes less pore space in your sand. Then we will continue loading the cylinder with our sand until you reach that line. And we will tamp a little bit again. You want to make sure that your soil sample is fairly flat and level with that bottom line. Okay? So as you can see, the soil sample is level with the line. Okay, once you have your soil densified and in the cylinder, you will then bring everything over to a sink or the bin that you choose to perform your test in, and you will place your solo cup in the center of that and then your cylinder directly inside your solo cup. From there, we want to saturate our soil, and by doing so, we will pour water into our solo cup. You want to essentially fill the solo cup so that it rises above or right to the soil level. Here, now you can wait until you have your soil wet and essentially saturated. Over time, the water will soak the soil. Now that you have a fully saturated soil, you can continue adding water a little bit if you need to. However, once the water is equilibrated in the cup and the cylinder, then you can assume that your soil is saturated, and then we can begin the test. So from here, what we're going to do is we're going to start filling our cylinder with water. I suggest you use the small cup to do this and slowly let the water flow into the cylinder. So we'll fill up our cup with water and then gently let the water into the cylinder. The reason why you want to do this in a sink or a bin is, as you can see, water will flow out of your solo cup. Continue to do this until your cylinder is filled with water. You will see the two other labels that you have on your cylinder are labeled H initial and H final. These are the markings that you're going to use to start timing the flow of water through your soil. Okay, I almost have a full cylinder. And as you can see in the coarse grained soil, the water flows very quickly through it, so you might want to be very prepared with your timer to start this. So I'm using just a regular phone timer for this, as you can see, and I'm going to fill up my cylinder completely, and then as it gets to the H initial line is when I will start my timer. Once it gets to H final is where you will stop your timer. Right about there. And it took 19.76 seconds for the water to travel from H initial to H final, which is a distance of 2 inches. Okay, once you are finished with the test with your coarse grained soil, you can go ahead and remove the soil from the solo cup. If you want to reuse some of this water, you can pour it back into your pitcher. And then we want to run the same test on fine grain and medium grain soil as well. So we will want to save this sand because you'll be using it in future labs. So what we'll do is we'll pour it out onto a plate. You can use a paper plate, or if you want, you can use a hard plate. And go ahead, pour this out as best as you can, and then you can clean out your cylinder in the sink. Try to get as much of the sand out as possible. If you want to just get some water in it and swirl it around, that might help. Make sure that you're getting as much of the sand out as possible, and then repeat this process for your medium grain sand and your fine grain sand. With your wet soil, if it's on a hard, safe plate, you can stick it in the oven for a few hours to help it dry, or you can leave it near a window where it maybe gets a lot of sunshine. The idea is that you want this soil to be completely dry in a few weeks by the time we're doing our strength test. That would be lab 5.